2023 just went from bad to worse for Jofra Archer. That is because after being ruled out of the 2023 edition of the IPL, he's now been ruled out of pretty much England's entire home summer. And that includes, of course, that one-off test against Ireland and more crucially, the Ashes series. So England will be going into the Ashes without Jofra Archer once again. It's a massive blow because most people thought that Archer was finally making his way back into competitive cricket at the start of 2023. That did in fact seem likely to be the case, but the injury issues continue to unfortunately give him one setback after the other, and truth be told, it isn't really a new issue at this point anymore. In fact, if you look back in time, you'll realize that Archer has been struggling with some form of injury, whether it be to his elbow or his back, or in some cases even both, since all the way back in 2020. So in this video, we're going to look at a timeline of sorts as to what were the multiple issues that Archer suffered that has led him to a point where it does seem like his cricketing career as we know it could very well be in some form of danger. So let's start off and go all the way back to 2020. Now, in 2020, in January, he had an elbow injury that ruled him out of the South Africa tour that England were on midway. He was unable to play the white ball leg of it. And later on that year, in February, he was once again ruled out of both the Sri Lanka Test series as well as the IPL. Now, of course, it is worth noting that at that point, no one really knew that the COVID-19 pandemic would push the IPL back a few months. And so he was actually able to make a recovery thanks to being in lockdown and was able to play not only the IPL but also all of England's games after that point. So it did seem like it was a minor setback that he was suffering, but as we know now, it actually was the start of something very, very major and something very, very problematic, his multiple elbow issues. Going back to 2021, whilst England were playing a test series in India, he ended up missing both the second and the fourth test due to, of course, elbow-related issues. And this forced him to actually play in that entire T20I series against India, which, lest we forget, was a 5-match T20I series. He had to play that whilst taking cortisone injections in his elbow. So it was not really, he was not at his best. He was not at full tilt, but he was still playing it whilst taking injections. And in March, he then had to undergo surgery to remove glass from his hand. You remember this was, of course, the point where he had that accident with the fish tank. And then later on in May, he had to have surgery again, this time on the elbow to remove glass from his elbow. Now, unfortunately, what that did was that all these multiple surgeries, come August, he was pretty much ruled out of the entire season due to a recurrence of, you guessed it, a stress fracture in the elbow. And to actually help fix that elbow issue, because he knew he was going to be out for the entire season and maybe beyond anyway, in December, he ended up having a second surgery on the elbow with the hopes that it would actually fix that issue for good, or if only it were that simple. 2022 started with yet more setbacks when you think about it, because he was training early on with the England squad throughout January and March, but at that point, everyone knew he still would be a long way away from making a competitive cricket comeback. Despite that, he did in fact get picked up in the IPL auction by the Mumbai Indians. Now remember, MI also were well aware that he wouldn't be fit to be playing that tournament, but they signed him anyway with the expectation that come 2023, they would be able to field him in full tilt. So he was bought by MI for big money despite the fact that he wouldn't be playing. And in May as well, he was unfortunately ruled out because, again, whilst working his way back to fitness, he ended up getting ruled out for the year. And this time, not with an elbow stress fracture, but with a back stress fracture. So the issues were constantly mounting for Archer, and 2022 was really just probably arguably the worst year because he was not even able to play any major competitive cricket. He was playing a few games, or he did play some domestic games here or there, but nothing beyond that. And an international comeback seemed like a pipe dream at this point in time. But come the start of 2023, things did start to look a little bit better before, of course, they got worse. Now, in the start of 2023, January, he made his return to competitive cricket when he was playing in the SA20 for MI Cape Town, which is, of course, the sister team of the Mumbai Indians that they own in the South African League. And later on in February, he played his first international game since the 2021 season when he was fielded in the South Africa series. And of course, you remember in that ODI series, he even ended up taking career best figures in ODIs. So he did in fact seem like he was slowly but surely making his way back to full fitness. And come March, he finally made his Mumbai Indians debut in that opening game of the season against the Royal Challengers Bangalore. Unfortunately, that match didn't go too well. Archer was on the receiving end as well, and before he could really find his rhythm, come April, he was ruled out for a few games with a mysterious injury, but which would later emerge that he was flying out to Belgium to have a minor corrective surgery on his elbow. So that means that in the space of 2 years, that is 3 elbow-related surgeries. Again, not a very good sign for a fast bowler. And after that, he came back. He did in fact play a couple of games, but it was pretty evident that MI knew just how bad his injury was because they had Chris Jordan on standby, and he was eventually ruled out of the IPL for this year. And today, on May 16, he was ruled out of the English summer as well. So as I said, the setbacks have constantly come, and they've come at a very rapid pace. Now, it is unknown as to whether or not he'd be fit for England come the ODI World Cup, but even if he were, he would again be coming in pretty undercooked because whatever little match time that he's had in recent months will in fact be pretty much stripped away because he's set for another lengthy injury on the sidelines. And of course, there will be questions asked now that even if he does manage to come back, can he stop the recurring of injuries that is happening in the elbow and back? And will he ever really be the same bowler? It's a crying shame that we're asking these questions because if you remember, Archer's impact in domestic and franchise league cricket was so good that England had to rewrite their eligibility rules to ensure that he could represent them in the 2019 World Cup. And it's a move that worked out wonderfully because they ended up lifting that tournament thanks in no small part to the kind of wickets and threat that Archer carried with the ball. Now though, we're at a point where Archer is very much at a career crossroads and would have to actually make a few tough calls should he be able to recover just fine from the recent round of injuries that he's facing. Fingers crossed that he can make a good recovery, but as we've charted in this video, these many setbacks, it's never a good sign, unfortunately. Thank you guys so much for joining us in this video. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell icon, leave us a comment, follow us on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, and don't forget to download the SportsTak app as well. Plus, if you're already on the channel, go ahead, check out some other videos that we've done. For now, from my side, goodbye.